Is there any old business?
No.
Any committee or organization reports?
I have one.
Mrs. Lax.
Wear glasses, not to wear glasses. Okay. Community programs met, I should know the date, but I don't, so I'm sorry, on December 8th. It was actually a very interesting meeting, not that they're not all interesting, but we had two presentations that day. One was from Jill D'Amico, who is the Adult Services Librarian over at the Public Library, and she told us about a couple of things that they're doing for our English language learners. They're not calling them the ESL students anymore because I guess what they're saying now is that a lot of people, it's not necessarily a second language. They come here and they know a lot of languages, just not English. So she has a new program there called the Pronunciator Program, which is really something great. If you haven't seen this, it's a subscription thing that you can get into with your own library card. If you don't have a library card, but you're a student or you're a staff member that works in the school system, you can actually get into this program, and it has 80 different languages that you can actually work on and helps you work with it. They're talking about using it for this particular population. I actually think it's something genius to look for our students, for the kids in the high school, all the way down that are doing anything with the different languages. So this was one of the big things that came out of that. She did say it's something that could have applications for students as well. So the other presentation we had was on foundations, which we're using in our kindergarten programs throughout the elementary schools. But we had Gina Donato, who is our Early Learning Academy instructor over at Lawrenceburg. And I guess she's been familiar with this program that comes from Wilson for years. She actually found, and she brought us workbooks and things that she had used for her children like 13 years ago. So she has actually put this back into her classroom, and it's been very successful, especially with the transition going into kindergarten. She also let us know that Mrs. Simpson's class in Memorial is using this program. And I believe in August they said this came out for a preschool environment, and the community programs are looking into potentially purchasing this for the entire ELA program. But I do give a lot of credit to Mrs. Donato and Mrs. Simpson for actually the forward thinking and going off on their own and actually starting to implement this program.
If I can just interject for a moment, we had a curriculum meeting the other night, and Mrs. LaDuca did give an overview of the Foundation's program, and it was my understanding that it will be utilized in all classes K through 2.
Yes, but this is because community programs runs ELA. This is actually they're trying to. Yes, I do think you are right. I know they talk about the kindergarten, especially with the transition, but I do actually think I've seen it in the second grade as well. So I think it is K through 2. But what I like about this program is our ELA students, they're coming into our kindergarten, and now the transition is a lot easier, and they found that the kids are learning a lot quicker. It's been very successful. Students that they were having trouble, now all of a sudden they're grasping, the letters and the sounds and things like that easier. So I'm hoping that this is something that we'll see going forward in all of the ELA programs, because Foundations is a great program, and yes, we are using it in the elementary, so wouldn't it make sense for our pre-elementary school kids to have it? Enrichment, Karen Ector actually brought us a calendar of all the events that go on through the Ask and the Encore program, and one of the things that we as a board decided would be great would be if we can actually publish this calendar and have it something that parents see an overview of the school year. So for example, we have field hockey is running at Hammersholt right now, and Mad Science is running in the elementaries. But there's different things that come throughout the year. So for example, as a parent, as a planning tool, if you were able to get something that showed you the overview of the school year, and you know that field hockey is something in the fall, and for example, they're going to do basketball in the winter, or Mad Science, or whatever we're doing, it would be nice for parents as a planning tool to actually have this. So that was one of the recommendations made. They're also going to, for Joe, where's Joe, an RFP process. And Bernie, they're talking about putting that into place to find vendors for community programs. So hopefully that will be successful for them. And then the last thing we talked about, which is so nice to be able to say this, the JM PAC. It's the first time we actually got to talk about it that way. We talked about the fact that there are 24 events currently planned this year, The majority of the events come through cultural programs, dance recitals, and dance competitions. And we have become the premier place for dance competitions. I think there are 13 dance competitions already booked this year.
Wow.
So it's a hot commodity.
That's great.
So it was a great meeting. I'm just seeing if I missed anything. Sorry, I'm old now and I can't see. So those the recommendations were, as I discussed. The only other thing we talked about on a not as positive note is we have a problem in some of our locations with the aftercare program. We have a very strict 6 p.m. pickup time, so one of the recommendations was to really crack down on some of the parents that take advantage of that, because the staff are very dedicated, and they deserve to be able to leave the buildings at 6 o'clock. And I think most parents are very good about that, and every once in a while, anyone can have any type of issue, and certainly, there can be exception, but we've had particular parents that have been a little bit abusive of the system, and so for the sake of our staff, we did recommend that they look at being a little bit more firm with those people and the 6 p.m. pickup time. So that was it. It was a good meeting.
Good. Thank you.
Missed you. And you.
Are there any other committees? Mrs. Shaw?
The Garden State Coalition of Schools met here in East Brunswick just yesterday. Seems like such a long time ago. But the items that were reviewed and discussed included pensions, the park exam, the cost of health benefits, the lame duck legislature. We also had a briefing on the so-called Cadillac tax as related to health benefits by Christina Zook from Princeton Public Affairs Group. I've determined after hearing Ms. Zook speak about it, as well as reading some of the information that she distributed, that perhaps Cadillac tax is maybe a little bit of a misnomer, because apparently it is an excise tax that is applied at a rate of 40% to any health benefit insurance plans that are over, I think, $10,200 per individual, and somewhere in the vicinity of $27,500 for a family. And personally, being from a family who is self-employed, and knowing the prices that small businesses are charged for insurance, I'm not sure that I would necessarily qualify them as Cadillac plans. But nonetheless, this was a provision of the Affordable Care Act, and currently it appears that this so-called Cadillac tax will not be enacted within the next year or two. In terms of the park exam, we took some time during the meeting for representatives of the various districts to talk about presentations in their own district about the park exam. I did discover that a number of districts, including East Brunswick, are mailing out park results and analysis even to families who opted out of the assessment. And it shows parents what kind of info they would receive, which I consider to be a good idea. We also reviewed Senator Sweeney's constitutional amendment to fund the pension fund. It is just in its very earliest stages. In terms of state aid, representatives of the Garden State Coalition met with Commissioner Hesby from DOE. Much of the focus of their discussion was on special education funding. The Garden State is driving to eliminate averages in categorical aid and have aid follow the student, which is something that had kind of been promised years ago. The DOE also indicated that it has an interest in trying to sprinkle additional dollars for special education funding. So I'm not sure whether I think sprinkle is a great word to be using. But nonetheless, if it results in a little bit of extra money for special education, it can't be all bad. Garden State also discussed with Commissioner Hesby the ROD grants, which is the regular operating district grants, which had been in place would that be, it's not quite 2 years ago, is that right, Mr. Juliana?
Not quite,
We haven't had them this entire school year
we
so far.
haven't had them this year, but the year prior, we were quite successful in obtaining the grants.
So anyway, I think the representatives who met with the commissioner discussed with him how these ROD grants enabled school districts to make important improvements, and certainly we would like to see them reestablished. They also discussed with the commissioner the cap 1 administrative costs, because in effect it is actually a cap within the 2% cap. And I believe that covers it pretty well. So as usual, we discussed a number of important issues in regards to education, and I continue to find it a very valuable forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McAvoy.
Last Thursday, the Instructional Technology Council met here in the Administration Building. Council's made up of teachers, middle management personnel, building principals, central office personnel under the leadership of Mrs. Debbie Gulick. Mrs. Gulick ran a very productive and thought-provoking meeting in which all participants interacted regarding the latest technology applications being used in our schools and in our classrooms. I don't know all the teachers by name, but enjoyed hearing the comment, quote, "Every time I plan my lesson, I try to implement some new technology." Mrs. Albert, a reading specialist at Frost, shared with us, quote, "I could not live without the Learning Ally app." She uses it every day with her students who struggle with reading, and these students are now seeing vast improvements in their reading ability. Mrs. Gulick then led a discussion on educational apps and the process of bringing them through the administration so that teachers could be using them in a timely manner. Mr. Leopold then joined the discussion by introducing the new content management system that he plans to unfold early in January. Teachers and administrators were eager to see how the template opened up on the whiteboard, and Mr. Leopold navigated around the site to a series of oohs and ahs. And finally, Moodle versus Google Classroom was a topic of discussion, and I trust that Mrs. Gulick will make decisions that benefit all of the East Brunswick students and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, yes, we had a meeting on Monday of the Curriculum Committee, and in Mrs. Becker's absence, I'd like to know if Mrs. Gulick would just go over the highlights from that meeting for us.
Thank you. I know that Mrs. Becker wanted to share some of the highlights for that meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity. We will be bringing to you, as usually comes from the Curriculum Committee, a series of new courses that we're excited about. You'll get to read about those in January. But the other thing that we did in the Curriculum Committee is we tried to highlight some of the things that are going on in the school district. And so we did a presentation on foundations. I think we had multiple positive comments made from, besides just Mrs. Leduca and her presentation, almost everyone there that had a student at K-2. So that was pretty exciting. It's working very, very well. Everyone is speaking about a common language through reading specialists and special education classrooms and classroom teachers, and had data to show that their students are ahead of where they were last year. So we're really excited about that. And the other thing that we're really excited about is we shared with the Curriculum Committee, and we were really happy, I think you will agree, hopefully board members will comment, that they were excited about the initiative that Dr. Vanella and I have been working on with the high school staff to implement next year in our course guidebook, which will open soon, 7 hybrid classes. And a hybrid class is a combination of face-to-face meetings and the use of our online management system, the Google versus Moodle. That's why we have to make a decision before September, so that our students can learn in that online format and be supplemented with their teacher's help. In the research that we've both done and in connections with some of the students that we keep in contact with, more than 1 in 4 students are attracted to that online format at the college level. And so we were really committed to giving our students the experience of knowing what that feels like here in our school. So we really did a needs assessment at the school, and we have 7, 6 of which are going to be quarter electives, and we think will really target population well, give kids a great experience.
And it
Any questions?
included SAT prep.
It did. It included SAT verbal preparation, SAT math preparation. It included Spanish Global Studies, which is a full-year course. It included contemporary issues in science, which is can be a bunch of different kinds of interesting topics. It included advanced digital research, which is the same exact class that you're taking at the graduate level, actually, about putting together a presentation. And we were really excited because almost all of these courses allow for differentiation, student choice, and the use of online and open source resources, which was something that we really wanted to try. Questions?
No, but I just had an additional comment in terms of the SAT prep courses, is that, not only am I happy that, we're going with this hybrid platform, but secondly, I think that it's so important for families to be able to have this resource available to them as part of a course, as opposed to having to cart their kids all over town at 5 or 6 o'clock at night and paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these types of programs. The other reason that I am so pleased about it is that I think that it kind of emphasizes that the PARCC exam is just one assessment that helps us learn things about how our students are learning and performing. But that doesn't mean that we've given up on the SATs and the AP classes and all of these different factors. It's all just part of, a puzzle, in my opinion. So anyway, I just think it's a great step forward.
Yeah, we're excited.
Excited.
It is exciting. Thank you. Any other committee reports for tonight? Move on to the good of the cause. Mr. Centuri?
Hi, good evening. Over this past week, I met with leaders of several extracurricular organizations, such as Model UN, Academic Team, and EB Techs, and I was just I found the projects they're doing very interesting. So 2 weeks ago, Model UN had a conference at Rutgers, the Rutgers University Model United Nations Conference, and we won Best Delegation. And a lot of people don't, thank you, a lot of people don't really understand the feat. We haven't won Best Delegation in 6 years. And every year, Mr. Broadman is constantly working with us to make us better delegates, make us better leaders. And people don't understand, you try out in September, and from September all the way to December, you're researching every single day. You're finding new topics, you're building your binder, you're finding better ways to articulate your ideas, better ways to structure your arguments, better ways to draft solutions. And then when you walk into that committee room, it's you and 200 kids. Just you by yourself. Your fellow classmates are in different rooms. Everyone else is working to represent East Brunswick High School in the best way possible. And for 6 years, the Best Delegation Award has been elusive. And finally, 2 weeks ago, we're able to get everything together and win Best Delegation. Personally, I'm a senior delegate, so I didn't get to attend the conference, only sophomores and juniors did. And when I saw that they won, it sounds like just Model UN, but it almost brought me to tears because we've been working so hard. 6 years, we haven't been able to get this, and finally we're able to get it. And it was completely insane. Like Monday, we all came into school, all the seniors were in the room with the sophomores and juniors, we were congratulating them. And it really goes to show that Model UN is more than just like an extracurricular, it's more of like a family, more of a team. We work so hard together, and to see all that hard work come to fruition and actually pay off was a really big reward. Secondly, I'd like to talk about academic team. So our academic team is probably one of our most successful clubs in the high school, and over this past year, they've attended several conferences. Recently, they attended the Quaker Conference, which was at University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, and we placed 4th. We're considered one of the best teams in the tri-state area, and we consistently get better with strong performances from the captain of academic team, Emmett Laurie, at the Central Jersey History Bee, where he placed 4th. And these kids are spending countless hours like studying. Sometimes I'll call like kids from academic team and I'm like, oh, what's going on? They're like, oh, we have this competition this weekend at Columbia, we have this competition at Princeton, we have to study. And they spend hours studying various topics ranging from science, history to geography, just for their own edification, just so that they can go and compete and answer these questions and become better students. And I think that's going beyond the classroom, that's going beyond what's required of them, and that's what East Brunswick's about, doing more than is required, taking the extra step. As Mr. Crotchfeld mentioned earlier, we always want to take it a step further, we always want to push the boundaries, and that's what our students are doing, that's what the board's been doing. Finally, I'd like to talk about EB Techs. So EB Techs recently, I was talking to Abik Pando and Samuel Yip, the leaders of EB Techs, and they've implemented a program. They recently just got a grant of $1,500 from EBEF to implement a program to teach adults about Excel and other computer applications. And when I found out about this, I was extremely happy, because it's not just something they can put on their transcript. It's not, oh, I'm in EB Techs, I'm just gonna put on my transcript and go to college. You're trying to give back to the community. Their first workshop is on January 4th in the Media Center, and anyone's welcome. Adults can come and they can learn how to, if you're a little choppy on certain aspects of Google Docs, certain aspects of Excel, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, anything, you can come in, and it really just bridges the gap between the youth and the adults. The elders.
That was carefully crafted. That was nice.
Elderly.
Yeah.
And I was gonna go.
And it's just, if you feel like you're not as technologically adept as you should be, you can just come in, and you just come in, there's food, there's everything, and it's just a very casual experience where you can learn about different computer applications and different aspects of technology without feeling awkward or without feeling as if, oh, I'm so like, I'm basically just, everything I know is antiquated, like I can't figure out anything. It's just a good way for you to learn. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Is it the 4th or the 9th? I saw the email because
Yes.
I'm not as adept as some people here.
Is the 9th actually? Oh yeah, okay, then sorry, it's the 9th.
Okay. So I told you, until
Yeah.
you said elderly, I was actually thinking of going. Now I'm.
Anyone else for the good of the cause? Well, I want to thank everybody. This is the last meeting of our year. As you know, people who run for board elections follow the same calendar as the regular elections. So our next board meeting will be in January, when we reconvene and reorganize. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to make public that in that reorganization process, I'm not going to be seeking to be president of the board again. As many of you who know me, I'm interested in the next election on working toward serving the town in a different function. And I know and make no qualms that that's going to be a lot of work and a lot of time, and that time, if I'm given the opportunity to do that, will really take away from the time commitment that you need to be for this role as president of the board. And we have a very strong board, and I thank them all for the opportunity that they have given me over the last 2 years for this role. I know that whoever takes over has a very strong board behind him or her, and whoever that is, I will also be supporting them 100%. I'd like to thank the staff and the faculty, who are the utmost professionals, and of course, the township, the parents, and the students who we all represent and who put us here. So I appreciate it. It's been nothing but an absolute and utmost honor. So we do have the need for closed session this evening, but a short one. So So I'd like to move that the Board of Education approve the following resolution. Whereas the Board of Education must discuss matters which are not appropriate for discussion in a public meeting. And whereas these subjects are within the exceptions of the Open Public Meetings Act and are permitted to be discussed in closed session pursuant to NJSA 10-412B. And whereas the Board of Education intends to discuss the following matters pursuant to NJSA 10-412B subsection 8. Any matter involving the employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation of the performance of, promotion, or discipline of any subject, except specific prospective public officer or employee, or current public officer or employee employed or appointed by the public body, unless all individual employees or appointees whose rights could be adversely affected request in writing that such matter or matters be discussed at a public meeting. The nature of the matter described as specifically as possible without undermining the need for confidentiality is employees 10286, 21015, and 14177. Whereas the length of the closed session is estimated to be 15 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with the business where formal action will need to be taken. Now therefore be it resolved.
And adjourn.
Reconvene and adjourn, immediately adjourn, and proceed with the business where formal action will be taken. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education from East Brunswick will recess into closed session for only the aforesaid subject matters. Be it further resolved that the East Brunswick Board of Education hereby declares that its discussion of the aforesaid subjects will be made public at a time when the public's interest in disclosure is greater than any privacy or governmental interest being protected from disclosure in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
So moved.
Mrs. Shaw, second. Mr. Philipchak, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Have a wonderful, happy, and healthy holiday, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Danny.